Hello everyone. I really enjoyed this project. I really enjoyed watching Dr. Archer do these explicit instruction videos. And for my presentation, I chose 4 videos from the elementary section and 1 from the secondary. So, the first video I chose was the active participation instruction video for 2nd grade. That included taking time to set the standards of your classroom and explain any expectations that you have, giving students an opportunity to think before giving answers out loud with a unique technique. So the one that she used that I thought was really cool was she would raise her hands and say, when you see my hands raised after a question, that means it's time to think about your answer. And then when I lower my hands, that means it's time to say it out loud. And I think that just gives every student the opportunity to process the question, come up with an answer so that they can participate with the rest of their class. The next was assigning class partners to be used throughout the reading and instructional lessons, and then find ways to move students who are distracted or being disruptive in a way that doesn't interrupt your teaching. So for that, her technique was, if you notice a student who is talking to the person sitting beside them or not paying attention or just needs to be moved to a more beneficial spot for them, she picked up their pencil and moved it to another desk, and she said, wherever your pencil goes, you follow. Implementations for this strategy, I would use this for active participation in all of my classrooms, and I feel that this video was certainly beneficial and could be beneficial in all classroom settings. The expectations and standards are usually explained at the beginning of their year, but I have learned that students can often forget or ignore them throughout, so it's helpful for both the teacher and students to review them. And the techniques mentioned will be very helpful to incorporate while teaching to keep students engaged and processing the information that they are learning. The next video that I watched was the Read Aloud for 2nd grade. I really enjoyed this one. It asks students to look at the cover of a book and make predictions before beginning to read. And then while reading, Dr. Archer explained any difficult or unknown words by incorporating simpler vocabulary. So when she read the word village, she said village or small town, just to kind of get them an idea so they don't get lost in the words of the story. And then you ask questions throughout the story to keep students engaged, and have students talk with their partners about the story to share their thoughts and gain new perspectives. So she would ask, okay students, what do you think will happen next? And she would say, partner 1, tell partner 2, and then switch. And so they were able to answer the questions to each other before sharing with the whole class, just to see if they could gain new perspectives. Excuse me. So implementations for this video, I enjoyed watching and thought that the techniques used and described were incredible and fun to not only watch but as a student to learn to read. And I plan to model this in future readings in my classroom. I know it is hard for some students to sit still, retain what is being told to them, and focus for very long. So using the techniques that were shown in this read aloud video will help students stay engaged and make it easier for them to comprehend and the process and story being told. Okay, the next video was vocabulary instruction for 2nd grade, and that was using a book that students have already read or heard and go over some unknown words with them. So in this video, Dr. Archer used the same book for this as she did in the read aloud. And you would write down each unknown word so it could be educated. We'll use that one. That was an example in the video. And have students help you sound them out with pointing to each part of the word. So educate. And then give a definition, an example for the word. And so the definition was a person who knows how to read and write, and the person was able to write a book because they were educated, kind of thing. And as an extra review measure, give your students hints about one of the words and see if they can guess what you're describing. So after you go through all of the words, you could say, I'm thinking of a word that a person is once they go to school, and then they would guess educated. At the end of reviewing, explain how the words can be used in different situations and challenge your students to use one or more of the words at some point that day. I thought that was a neat challenge because it gets them thinking about the words and how they can apply them to situations throughout their day, and it helps them to remember them. Implementations. I plan to implement this activity for weekly vocabulary words, and we'll choose books that include the specific words for that week. I think this will be a great way to incorporate the vocabulary words in an everyday setting that will keep students engaged while learning. I think you could do this even if you do not have specific vocabulary words. Just pick frequent but unknown words to go over with students. Okay, the next video was alternative passage reading for 3rd grade. This activity happened over several rounds. The first round, you will have students read a grade or level appropriate book to themselves. Each student will be reading the same book, so one book for the whole class, but every student will get a copy. And while the students are reading, the teacher will go around the room and have one student at a time whisper read to them. I thought this was a good technique because it allows the students to process the book and try to read it on their own first. And then, and then while they are reading, you can go around and just check to make sure that they are being successful with the reading and are getting all of the words correctly. And then once everyone has had a chance to read the book to themselves, the teacher and students will then read the book together. While everyone is reading out loud, the students will follow along by pointing to each word. After everyone is reading confidently, the teacher will instruct students to continue reading even if he or she stops. At any time that the teacher notices a student is off track, the class will reread the page that they are on just to make sure that no one gets lost. The last round gives the students a chance to work with their assigned partners. The first student will read 2 sentences while their partner listens, and then the second student will get a chance to read 2 sentences while their partner listens. Ways I would implement this in a future class is I would use this to increase reading fluency and comprehension with my students. I think this would be a fun way to help students increase reading levels by using support from their teacher and peers. This would most likely be done weekly in future classrooms that I work in. Okay, and the last video that I chose was pronunciation of multisyllabic passage words for 6th grade. Teacher will put chosen words up on the screen or board and point to each part of the word for the students to sound out. Words that have uncommon parts will be sounded out by the teacher first, and then the students will repeat it. So for this part, the video used the word persuade. Per is easy to sound out, but suede is not. So what she did was she said, okay, how do you say this first part? And the class said purr, and then she said, and this next part is swayed. Everyone repeat after me. And then they all said swayed. So once every word is correctly sounded out and pronounced, the teacher will give them a definition for each word and use it in an example. The students will also participate to practice saying the words in a sentence. And then after the class has gone over each word, they will review the words and definitions before concluding the lesson. To implement this in future classrooms, I think this will be a great way to review difficult words before a test or writing assignment, especially when you start getting in 3rd grade and up. The benchmark testing, this would be a great way to get them prepared for that. This could be a great way to introduce words that will challenge students for future lessons. I also plan to use this type of activity to help students understand the syllables and words and work on sounding out words when they are unfamiliar. Again, I really enjoyed watching this video and thought that it was a great tool, and will continue watching them and reviewing them as necessary to prepare for teaching in future classrooms.